Chapter 36. I sat on the cold floor next to Casper, staring down at the pool of red vomit in front of me. I had no idea vampires could even be sick. It seemed so unlikely. When I tried to move to clear it up, Casper had pulled me back to his side and said, "Let's just stay here a little while longer." I liked his suggestion, but my mouth tasted like sour blood. So I politely pointed out that I need to wash my mouth out after heaving my guts out. Casper took it in good humor and helped me to my feet. He took my hand and began to lead me towards the main bathroom, where a number of toiletries had been left on the side in brand new packaging. Casper handed me a toothbrush and a tube of paste, which I gratefully took. We stood together in front of sink, staring at our reflections in the huge bathroom mirror. Casper was disheveled and dirty with blood and dust, while I was covered in my own bloody vomit. Without thinking, I said out loud, "God, we look so gross." The remark caught Caspar off guard, who was starting to unbutton his shirt. He laughed out loud and replied, "I think we actually look like proper vampires now." I smiled at his joke, but immediately stopped grinning when I saw the dried blood stuck in my teeth. Feeling self-conscious, I squeezed half the toothpaste tube on my toothbrush and scrubbed my teeth like crazy. Caspar, on the other hand, slid coolly out of his bloody shirt and exited the bathroom to get a clean shirt. When he returned, wearing a nice, bright white shirt, he had also brought a large, fluffy bathrobe along with him. Standing behind me, Caspar slid his arms around my waist and said, "I want you to take a relaxing bath. Don't go into university today. Just try to relax while I go and see my brother." "But what about Duke?" I asked anxiously. Caspar's expression hardened and he ran his hands over my arms. "Duke is a known womanizer. He probably thought he could take advantage of you in your vulnerable state and some fun. I don't think he meant you any serious harm, but I promise you that I will make sure that he will never bother you again," he said. "What will you do?" I questioned. "I will talk to my brother and see that he has sent away from the city, maybe exile again," Caspar said. "Duke was exiled before?" I asked. Caspar nodded. "After Celia was murdered, Louis exiled Duke from the city. It wasn't really Duke's fault, but Louis was so devastated over Celia's death that he blamed Dukes for not recognizing the growing evil in Caspar. Louis felt that as Dukes was the closest person to Caspar, he should have seen Celia's murder coming and prevented it. But that wasn't fair," I said. Louis wasn't thinking straight. He had just lost his mate, and to a vampire that is the worst thing that can ever happen. Many vampires chose not to carry on living after their mate dies. Most of us thought that Louis would follow Celia into the afterlife, but he stayed strong for the kingdom and pulled through. A short while later, he met Henrietta, and the rest is history. "I feel sorry for your brother," I said. "All of us do," Caspar said. "He went through hell after my parents died. Then he went through hell again after Celia died. I don't think he will ever be the same again. But at least he tries to be as normal as he can be given the circumstances. He sounds a very brave man," I said. "He is very brave, but he is also very damaged. I don't think he will ever recover from Celia's murder or Caspar's betrayal," Caspar said. Caspar pressed a kiss onto the top of my head and changed the topic to something more lighthearted. Holding me tight, he says to me, "Once I have spoken to my brother, I will come straight back home and we can talk some more. Until then, I want you to stay in the apartment with Nico where it is safe." "What about Duke?" I asked. "I will take him back to the city with me and talk to my brother about what to do with him," Caspar said. "Please make sure that Louis doesn't hurt him." "I couldn't bear that on my conscience," I said, trying to buy time for Duke. Chapter 37. I stayed in the bathroom until Henrietta had arrived. After Nico had threatened and manhandled me this morning, I was determined not to find myself alone with him. Once I had thought of him as a friend, but now I knew better. Henrietta had been right when she said that I could not trust him. Henrietta had been right when she said I could not trust anyone. Nico had knocked on the bathroom door when Henrietta arrived. I walked out the bathroom, refusing to acknowledge Nico, and headed straight to the foyer where Henrietta was waiting. When Henrietta saw me, she ran across the room and threw her arms around me, pulling me in close for a tight hug. "Are you okay?" she asked, holding me close. "I think so," I replied, shakily hugging her back. Henrietta pulled away and we both smiled at each other. For the first time this morning, I felt happy to see a friend. Henrietta took my hand in hers and ushered me into one of the reception rooms away from Nico and her guards. She closed the door and asked me in quiet voice, "What happened this morning?" Quietly, I leaned forward and mouthed the word ghost. Immediately, Henrietta raised her finger to her lips, urging me to remain silent. She glanced around the room and then took my hand, leading me to a corner of the room. There, she pulled out her cell phone and began typing. I waited a couple of seconds and she handed me her phone. "It is not safe to talk here." I cleared the text field on her phone and replied, "I know, but Duke is in danger. He knows my secret." I handed the phone back to Henrietta, who paled at my reply. She cleared my message and typed back, "This is very bad." I nodded my head in agreement, trying to hold it together. Outside, there was a noise, and Henrietta quickly shoved her phone into her purse and said loudly, "I can imagine it must have been a nasty shock to have nearly been abducted by Duke. Thank goodness Nico and Caspar were there to save you." The reception room door opened and Nico stepped in holding a silver tray with 2 crystal-cut glasses filled with blood. He looked at both of us like naughty children and walked into the room. Henrietta flashed him a broad smile and said, "Hazel tells me that you saved her captain." Nico regarded her with a cool stare and said, "It is my responsibility to protect the prince and princess from danger." Henrietta pleasantly smiled back at him and replied, "And I thank the stars that we have you here to protect Hazel. She is quite shaken up from her ordeal. Perhaps she should come back with me to my apartment." "That is not possible, Your Majesty," Nico said firmly. "The king and prince have ordered that the princess remain here." Annoyance flickered across Henrietta's eyes. I could see she was trying to get me away from Nico so we could find a safe place to talk. But Nico was not having any of it. He was determined to stay by my side in this apartment. "Oh well then," Henrietta said nonchalantly. "If Hazel has to stay in this apartment, then I will remain here with her until Caspar returns." Nico did not look happy about this revelation, but proceeded to bite his tongue and place the silver tray of drinks on the coffee table. Henrietta watched him and waited for him to straighten up and start to walk out the room. The moment Nico began to turn his back, Henrietta shot me a mischievous glance and called out, "Oh, Captain, there is something I must ask of you." Nico's shoulders visibly tensed, and he swung round to face Henrietta with an expression of repressed hatred for the woman. Henrietta felt his displeasure and responded with a polite smile which seemed to irritate him even more. "Seeing that I cannot possibly leave Hazel alone in this emotional state, I would ask you to run some errands for me in town," she said. Nico opened his mouth to protest, but Henrietta raised her hand to silence him. "Hazel will remain in the apartment with myself and my guards. She will be perfectly safe for half an hour while you pick up my dry cleaning." Nico wanted to argue the point, but he knew better than to argue with the queen. Reluctantly, he nodded and said, "I will leave immediately and return as soon as possible." "Thank you, Captain. I wouldn't normally ask this of a guard, but these are exceptional circumstances," Henrietta replied. Nico walked out the room and closed the door behind him. As soon as the door was shut, both Henrietta and I grinned at each other in triumphant. Finally, we had outwitted the king's lapdog. Standing by the window, we watched the blacked-out SUV leave the building with Nico in it. "Finally we can talk," Henrietta said as the SUV disappeared around the corner. "What about your guards?" I asked. "Both are idiots and are both thankfully lacking in the special ability to hear through walls," Henrietta explained, and then with a wink added, "I know how to pick my guards." I smiled at her joke, then in hushed voice told her about what had happened. I told her about the ghost in the bathroom and the burnt woman in the garage. I told her about Olivia McAdam and how her arm had been snapped in two when my bedroom door slammed shut on her. I told her everything, and Henrietta quietly listened, taking in every single detail. After I had finished, she said nothing, her face expressionless like she was deep in thought. Impatiently, I said, "What am I going to do? I'm being haunted by these. I don't know what they are, but when they appear, bad things happen." Henrietta nodded sympathetically. "I understand, but I don't know what to do. I've never met anybody with your gift before. There must be others like me, maybe hiding," I said. "There could be, but it's unlikely they would advertise their abilities," Henrietta explained. "Why?" I asked. "Vampires with your abilities have always been regarded with suspicion and even hatred. It has something to do you not being thought of as a full vampire due to the fact part of your soul remains in the other world. I wish I could give you something positive here, Hazel, but I can't. Maybe I could just tell Caspar, he might understand," I began, but Henrietta cut me off. "I know Caspar. If you told him about what you could do, He would tell Nico, who would tell Louis, and before you know it, the whole court would know about your ability. You don't know that? Caspar loves me, and I don't think he would ever let anyone hurt me. Caspar wouldn't see the danger like I do. Henrietta paused, looking out the window. I glanced outside and saw Nico's black SUV was returning from town. Henrietta cursed under her breath. Listen, we do not have much time, but if you want to understand more, then you need to ask Caspar about the history of Port Cresida. Ask him about the temple. I don't understand, I replied confused. Henrietta gave me a pained look and said, Oh Hazel, the vampire city that will be your home, and the palace you will one day live in was built on the blood and ashes of innocent vampires like yourself. Chapter 38. There were many things about vampire culture that I do not understand. I do not understand vampire royalty or their customs, nor their traditions. How does standing under a tree at the wrong time bind me to a man I had never met for eternity? But what I struggle with the most is the not knowing who I was in this vampire society I had been forced into. I was a princess, but I was also a vampire who saw ghosts, and both these things had different meanings and different outcomes. Henrietta tried to tell me what she could, but Nico had returned sooner than expected, and after that we had to talk about other things. Time passed, and eventually, Henrietta was summoned away by an abrupt phone call out of the blue. Henrietta apologized for having to leave early and left with her entourage. It seemed for us, our lives were no longer our own. I returned to the bedroom, eager to avoid Nico, and sat on the edge of the bed waiting for Caspar to come back. Nico prowled around the apartment and I listened to his footsteps as he came and went past my door. Each time he passed, and the sound of footsteps clicking against the hard polished floor faded into the distance, a small wave of relief overcame me. As afternoon fell into evening, there was a knock on my door. Nico opened the door and stepped in, appearing even more distant and tight-lipped than when I had last seen him. He looked at me and said, "Throw on an evening dress. Caspar wants to take you out to dinner." "Maybe I don't want to go to dinner," I said, feeling a flash of annoyance. "Don't be fucking childish," Nico chided. I wanted to answer him back, but I knew what would probably happen, and Duke wasn't here to defend me anymore. Nico stared at me coldly from across the room for a few uncomfortable moments waiting for my reply. I think he wanted me to bite back because he wanted another opportunity to ask me about what happened last night and this morning. So I swallowed my anger and said calmly, "Are you going to close the door, or do you want to watch me get changed?" A humorless smile stretched across Nico's face as he said with mock politeness, "Thank you for your cooperation, Your Highness. There are evening dresses on the left side of the walk-in wardrobe which Caspar picked out for you. I will be waiting in the foyer when you are ready." With that, Nico closed the door and I heard his footsteps drifting back up the corridor. I waited for the footsteps to disappear and I muttered under my breath, "Go to hell." Pushing myself off the bed, I padded across the room to a door I had never been through before. I nervously pushed it open and fumbled for a light switch. The room was pitch black and just like a child, I was worried about the monsters that the darkness hid. Was there a ghost waiting for me in this room? I glanced wistfully back at the door, suddenly wishing Nico was here with me. I felt safer when there were other people around, even if that other person was complete tool. I glided my hand over the wall and found the switch. Turning it on, the room was suddenly flooded with bright light, revealing a space that nearly matching the size of the adjoining bedroom. This didn't look like a walk-in wardrobe. This looked like a whole shop floor. I gingerly stepped into the room and uncomfortably eyed the rail upon rail of designer clothes. There were no high street names in this room, only very expensive foreign fashion designers. As promised, the left side of the wardrobe was filled with women's clothes. I flicked through a couple of items and noticed that they were my sizes exactly. Cool in one way, but creepy in another. I passed blouses and skirts to the long rail of dresses varying in cuts, colors, and lengths. I pulled out what I thought was an elegant black evening dress, then noticed the gaping hole in the middle where my tummy would be. "Really?" I muttered to myself, studying the dress and wondering how anyone but a model could pull this off. Then I remembered there was a reason I liked cheap, comfortable clothes, and it was because they were easy to wear and easy to replace. Me, food and nice clothes was a dangerous combination. I knew putting on a designer dress and going to restaurant would be tempting fate to spill a whole bowl of something down myself. I palmed through a couple more dresses, then decided to stop. This wasn't me. This wasn't my style. I couldn't wear dresses that made me feel uncomfortable or self-conscious or semi-naked. I walked away from the dresses and realized that I would have to improvise. I found a black skirt which was not too high but not too low either, and threw it on. Then, after flicking through a number of see-through blouses, I spotted Casper's clean white shirts hanging neatly across the room. Abandoning the tops, I grabbed Casper's white shirt and put it on. The fit was loose, so I rolled up the sleeves and tied the bottom shirt tails into a cute knot. After that, I threw on a pair of black heels and checked the mirror. Satisfied I looked reasonably smart, I walked to the foyer where Nico was waiting for me. Nico looked me up and down and said, "Couldn't you find the dresses?" "I found them just fine," I said. "And?" Nico asked, pressing for an explanation. "I preferred this outfit," I explained. "Listen, Hazel, Caspar chose those dresses. If Caspar likes those dresses so much, then he can wear them. So for me, I am wearing this," I said. Nico inhaled deeply, contemplating whether it was worth pursuing this argument or not. After a few seconds, he conceded the futility of an argument and picked up the car keys to the SUV. He walked toward the front door and I followed behind him. We got to the front door and he suddenly stopped. "You know," he said, swinging towards me, "I know to you this is a power game. The clothes and the shutting Caspar out of your head bullshit. I know that you are doing this because you want to feel in control of the situation, but you are not Hazel. You are not in control of the situation. This is vampire society, and it is nothing like human society. It's brutal. It doesn't care about equality, or your rights, or your feelings. The only thing that matters in this society is power. Real power. Not the type you get from being able to pick your own damn clothes. In our world, you are weak. And weak people in our world don't thrive too well. The only people who are standing between you and the horrible reality of this world is me and Caspar. So, next time you think about giving me one of those filthy stares, just remember that, okay?" I didn't respond, but he didn't wait for an answer. Nico threw open the door and gestured for me to pass, saying, "Ladies first." Numbly, I walked past him. I was mad, I was upset, I was a whole range of emotions right there and then in that moment. But I also couldn't help feeling that he was right. I was weak and vulnerable in this world without them, and knowing that killed me. Chapter 39. The restaurant was a 20-minute drive away in the next town. It was an upmarket Italian restaurant which had received numerous accolades of being one of the best dining experiences in the whole state. I only know this because Olivia McAdam had often boasted very loudly in seminars about how the latest rich boyfriend had taken her out there for a romantic meal. She used to brag about the 3-month waiting list and the delicious food which was only made with fresh, organic, local, and seasonal foods. I hated the place already. We pulled up outside the restaurant and Nico parked the SUV. He instructed me to stay inside the car while he checked the area. Sitting inside the massive blacked-out SUV, I peered through the tinted glass into the restaurant. I could see through the windows into the restaurant and it was packed with people. Very smartly dressed people. I glanced down at my own outfit and suddenly felt stupidly underdressed. Looking back inside the restaurant, I could see a sea of beautiful women swanning about in elegant designer gowns looking perfect. Damn it. Maybe I should have put one of Caspar's dresses on, but then I don't think it would have mattered if I did. I wasn't exactly the model type, so I would have probably ended up looking ridiculous anyway. The SUV door opened and Nico gestured for me to get out. I slid out of the car and stepped onto the red carpet that led to the main entrance of the restaurant. A doorman stood standing outside the entrance, smiled at me, and touched the peak of his hat in a mark of respect. Awkwardly, I smiled and, for some stupid reason, waved. "What are you doing?" Nico asked. "I have no idea," I admitted, feeling like a fish out of water. Nico gently took my arm and led me up the carpet towards the entrance. I resisted his guidance, trying to hang back a little. "I can't go in there," I said. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can. You are a princess. Act like one," Nico said. "But these people don't know I'm a princess. They probably think I'm some idiot that didn't read the dress code," I replied. "Hazel, relax. You will not be sat with the common rabble. Caspar has arranged a private room for you both, so no one will be able to see you," Nico responded, leading me to the entrance. The doorman welcomed us both to the restaurant and opened the door. Nico and I stepped through, and we were immediately greeted by a waiter, who then asked for our reservation. Nico explained who we were, and the waiter immediately straightened up and wasted no time whisking us away from the main dining area through the restaurant's bar. There were several parties of people in the bar, all sitting around various glass tables with colorful drinks, laughing and talking with each other. The bar was quieter than the restaurant, and because of that, I was able to glean small fragments of people's conversations. One couple at one table was talking about their vacation in the Seychelles, while across the way on another table, two men boasted about their average golf score while their wives quietly discussed the misery of becoming golf widows. The talk was small and insubstantial until we came to briefly stop at the bar while our waiter found us a couple of menus, when suddenly I heard someone say, "Don't look now, but I see the captain of the Prince's Guard." I looked over and saw a group of 4 people sitting in the furthest corner, sharing several of bottles of champagne. There were 2 women and 2 men, all wearing clothes that seemed to be 90 years behind the fashion. They were pretending not to look, but I could see them sneaking glances at me like I was some kind of celebrity. "So that must the princess," one of the women added. "Isn't she lovely, very pretty thing?" one man said in a low voice. His female companion looked me up and down and added, "Oh yes, absolutely divine. Such a sweet-looking creature. She reminds me of a Botticelli's angel." The other man added. Nico must have picked up on the comments too, because he suddenly maneuvered around me, inserting himself between me and those people. Looking at him, I asked quietly, "Are those people vampires?" He nodded discreetly in reply. I peered around Nico's shoulder and saw them continuing to chat amongst themselves. They were the first vampires I had ever seen beside Casper, Nico, Duke, Henrietta, and the guards. "Oh, Hector, you should go and introduce yourself to the princess," one of the women said to her partner. Her male companion eyed Nico up and down and said, "I don't believe that is a good idea, my darling." "Oh, nonsense. How else are we going to get an invite to the palace?" she argued. Nico suddenly took my arm and began to walk away from the waiter, telling him, "We'll walk on ahead. I know the way. Please ensure we are not followed." Nico and I headed towards a dim side corridor signed Privates and began walking down it. He glanced at me and said in tone that reflected his feelings, "Those people are gutter snipes, Hazel. Stay away from them." "Who are they?" I asked. "They are rich people who want to be you," he said. "Why?" I asked. "In our world, money and politics are 2 different things. Power is only obtained through blood, not wealth. The wealthy want power that they cannot buy, so they have to settle with next best thing, which is fawning over royalty, bribing them. They'll pay obscure princes to marry their daughters, or seek to gain your favor only to try and manipulate you to their advantage. They are the worst kind of people, Hazel, and they will swarm around you like flies," he said, and then added with a lighter tone, "But hey, you will very soon have your own guards to protect from those kind of people now that you are moving into the palace." My pace slowed at that revelation, and I stared at Nico and asked, "What do you mean moving into the palace?" With a half smile, Nico replied, "Well, not to spoil the good news, but Louis has told Caspar to bring you back to the palace. He wants to start integrating you into court life now that you have had some time to accustom to becoming a vampire." "What? No, I live here, and I have college and my degree," I stammered. Nico placed his hands on my shoulders in a mock gesture of comfort. "The situation with Duke has made the king realize that this human world is not the best place for you. You need to be in the palace where you will be safe from people like Duke and people like those assholes out in the bar. I know this sounds scary, but the palace is the safest place for you. And once you move into the palace, you and Caspar can be there together forever, and you will never have to leave the palace again." Chapter 40. The question of the bloody origins of Port Cresida flew far from my mind when I learned that I was going to be moved to the royal palace for my own protection. I had known that this day would come, and I had hoped that when the day came, I would be better prepared, but this was way sooner than I had anticipated. I wasn't prepared to go and live vampire society. I knew virtually nothing about vampires or their culture and customs, and the few things I did know made me want to turn and run. I walked slowly behind Nico as he blithely led me down the corridor to the private room where Caspar was waiting for me. I think Nico was very pleased with himself after dropping that little bombshell on me. He kept glancing over his shoulder as we walked to check my expression, and despite trying to keep it together, inside, I was honestly terrified. I followed Nico through a door which I thought would be a small private dining area where Caspar and I would eat, But my expectations were blown out the water when I saw the enormity of the room. This was more of a function room than a private room, as it could easily hold several hundred people. The room was large and spacious, boasting a beautiful view of the forest and mountains from its floor-to-ceiling windows. Outside, there was a veranda, which was probably shut off for winter now, but I imaged in the summer the veranda would be opened up so the guests could enjoy the view in the cool evening air. There were dozens of empty tables decorated with fresh flowers and pretty tea lights, and for a second I wondered if the room had been used for a wedding reception earlier. But Nico, as if he had read my mind, said, "Casper planned all of this months ago, way before he met you. Duke even helped choose the decorations, which is kind of ironic because he is the one who has practically ruined tonight's surprise, don't you think?" I didn't reply. Nico was crafty, and I had a feeling he was trying to provoke me into saying too much, so I walked past him to the windows and looked out across the forest. The moon was shining bright tonight, bathing the forest in its silver light. I felt Nico behind me, and he leaned towards my ear and said in a low voice, "Enjoy the view while you can. I have a feeling that a storm is coming, and I think when it does come, all of this is going to disappear." "I like storms." I shrugged. I wasn't talking about the weather. Nico replied cryptically. I lowered my voice and asked, "Is that a threat?" Before Nico could reply, a waitress appeared out of side door at the end of the corridor. She coughed lightly to make her presence known, then asked me to follow her into the private adjoining bar of the large function room. Secretly, I was relieved because I could feel my nerves starting fray. Nico knew something was up, and I needed to keep calm and not fuel his suspicions. So, maintaining my composure, I looked at Nico and politely excused myself. Inside me was an awful, uncontrollable fear was strangling me, and it was so bad that the simple task of putting one foot in front of the other was a challenge. It was the not knowing that was killing me. I knew I was walking into a situation blindfolded, and I knew this situation was dangerous, but I had no idea of the type of danger that was waiting for me. I needed to start thinking logically and practically. Being frightened was not going to help me in the long run, and if I was going to survive whatever fresh hell was waiting for me down the road, then I would need to use this dinner with Caspar to my advantage. I needed to go in there and glean as much information as I could about the palace in Port Cresida, but there was just one problem, and that was Caspar. I didn't understand psychology or biology behind vampire mates. I had no idea if the bonds between us were spiritual or magical or pure biochemistry. But I knew that there was a bond between us, whether I liked it or not, and this bond affected my cognitive faculties associated with logic and reason. When I stepped into the bar area and spotted Caspar sitting at the private bar in his black suit and slicked back hair, all the fear and anxiety began to melt away as new emotions came rushing forward to the forefront of my mind. I felt expanding warmth inside my chest that fluttered wildly in the presence of Caspar. I was happy, overwhelmed, and relieved to be reunited with him despite only seeing him last this morning. If it hadn't been for pride and sense of dignity, I would have probably run across the bar and flung my arms around him. But instead, I stood a few steps past the doorway and into the room, then waited for him to notice me. It did not take long. He turned in his bar stool and saw me across the room. A warm shadow of a smile lit up his face, and he got up from the bar and abandoned his drink to walk towards me. His pace was slow, and I knew why. He was taking his time to look at me, to admire me, to examine every single line of my shape. This made me feel painfully self-conscious and uncomfortable, as well as nervous and excited and strangely happy. I tried not to overthink these feelings because I did not want to give in to them. These were the feelings that made me think and act stupid, and right now, I needed to be at the top of my game. I tried to stop these feelings that Caspar was causing by trying to shatter the moment between us. I needed to destroy the mood and the tension and the chemistry that was escalating between us. So I nervously folded my arms across my body in an attempt to deny him a view of my body. Caspar watched in puzzlement and asked, "What is wrong, Hazel?" There was a ghost of a smile in his expression that screamed mischief. He was feigning concern, but I could tell he thought the action of folding my arms across my chest in an attempt to reclaim some of fragment modesty was somehow funny. Caspar's amusement grated against me, and without thinking, I snapped. "Do you have to look at me like that?" "Like what?" he asked. "Like a starving dog staring at a bone," I replied. Caspar's predatory gaze broke away from mine, and for a foolish split second, I thought I had won. "You are not being fair to me, Hazel," he said softly. "How can say that when you walk in here wearing my shirt after spending the day being wrapped up in my bed sheets from the bed we make love on? Do you think that is fair?" My mouth ran dry and I struggled to speak. I don't think like you, Caspar. I don't think like that," I said. The tone in my voice was weak and I felt completely out of my depth. This situation was sliding away from me, and I could feel myself losing control. Caspar began to walk towards me and close the gap between us. I wanted him to stay back because I knew I would be completely lost if he came too close. "You are not being honest with yourself, Hazel. I see the way you look at me, the way you move, and I know that you want me just as much as I want you," Caspar said, closing in. I took a few steps back and felt the cool hardwood door pressing against my back from where the door had been shut. Caspar stepped in front of me and leaned forward, placing his hands either side of my shoulders against the door, and suddenly I found myself imprisoned between the door and Caspar. "I can see it in your eyes and your body language. You are aching for me," Caspar ground out. "Now, you are the one who is being unfair," I replied, avoiding his eyes. "Look at me," Caspar said softly. I lifted my head to meet his dark eyes and found myself overwhelmed. Caspar smiled and gently leaned forward to press a small kiss on the corner of my mouth. My insides melted, but I was frustrated at Caspar's restraint. Why wasn't he kissing me like I wanted to be kissed? Why was he holding back? Then I realized he was holding back because he wanted to show me that I was just as hungry as he was, and that I needed him just as much as he needed me. "Why are you torturing me?" I asked, with his mouth hovering over mine, and he said with a smile, "I am not your torturer, Hazel. I am the only person in this world that can give you the relief that you need, and I know you are longing for relief." He dipped his head down and grazed his lips against mine in a short, sharp kiss that made me want more. I leaned forward into the kiss, desperate to prolong the sweet bliss between us, but Caspar pulled away, then grabbed me and pulled me close to his body in a protective hold. I felt his muscles tense underneath his clothes, and I knew something was wrong. "Caspar?" I asked. "Shh, we have unwanted company," he replied.